Thing that Donald Trump has ever done is divided this country. America will only be great if you vote for me, and that's bullshit. It's not making America great, it's making Donald Trump great. Vote for me so I can pardon myself, do anything I want, get away with it. Just a regular guy. But when I look up the definition of narcissist,
and they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom, he's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and a smart person.
What happens when a 300 lb former wrestling powerhouse and late night's most sarcastic ringmaster decides they've had enough of Donald Trump? It is not subtle, it is not polite, and it is definitely not boring. Dave Bautista brings a muscle. Jimmy Kimmel brings a smirk. And suddenly the political circus has two new headliners. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. This wasn't just another celebrity rant. Something about this hit differently, and Trump definitely noticed.
We'll be here shortly, and if you're watching in bed at the White House, you might want to stay up because we are definitely going to be talking about you, girl. Okay? President Donald Trump did find time between bombings yesterday.
No, not at all. I think Jimmy Kimmel's terrible. You know what suspended him? His talent. You know what else is really what? Take a look at this guy, his ratings. That's what got Jimmy Kimmel out. He was terrible. And didn't he lose? I saw a report where ABC lost millions of dollars.
Before we move on, smash that like button and subscribe, because you know you don't want to miss out on this one. It was supposed to be another routine night under bright studio lights. The band warming up, the audience buzzing, and the monologue ready to roll. But somewhere between the first punchline and the third camera angle, the temperature in the room shifted.
if you vote for me, and that's bullshit. It's not making America great, it's making Donald Trump great. Vote for me so I can pardon myself, do anything I want, get away with it. I'm just a regular guy. But when I look up the definition of narcissist, this is who people want running our country. Everything he loses is rigged. When he won in 2016, because he lost the popular vote was rigged. What a whiny little bitch. The fact that he was convicted, 34 felonies, it was rigged. Guilty of fraud because it was rigged. I know why.
What began as late-night comedy quietly transformed into something closer to a televised cross-examination. And at the center of it stood two men who could not be more different in style, yet strangely aligned in purpose. Jimmy Kimmel and Dave Bautista.
To post what the New York Post called apocalyptic footage of San Francisco under Gavin Newsom. The Ayatollah is pulling out all the stops lately. Team Trump was on Capitol Hill today to brief Congress about the strikes on Iran. Usually that happens before we invade a country, but technically only Congress has the power to declare war. But also, technically, you're supposed to get a permit to tear down the East Wing of the White House. And they're not going to get bogged down in technicalities.
For years, Donald Trump has functioned as late night's most reliable recurring character. A walking headline generator whose every rally speech and social media post arrives pre-packaged with comedic potential.
This is who people want running our country. Everything he loses is rigged. When he won in 2016, because he lost the popular vote was rigged. What a whiny little bitch. The fact that he was convicted, 34 felonies, it was rigged. Guilty of fraud because it was rigged. I know why he's so proud of turning up Roe versus Wade, and the reason is because he's a massive piece of shit. This dude got laughed out of the United Nations. That says a lot.
And the reason is because he's a massive piece of __. This dude got laughed out of the United Nations. There's that says a lot. Hosts have built entire segments around him. Audiences have grown accustomed to the rhythm, and the cycle has repeated so often that outrage itself began to feel rehearsed. The formula was familiar. Trump says something provocative. Comedians respond. Supporters push back, and the internet splits neatly into applause and fury. But this time felt different. Kimmel did not simply reach for the low-hanging fruit of exaggerated impressions or recycled one-liners. Instead, he framed Trump not as a cartoon villain, but as a central figure in a larger political ecosystem that thrives on spectacle. When Trump boasted about record-breaking speeches and historic triumphs, Kimmel responded not with theatrical outrage, but with measured disbelief, carefully juxtaposing grand claims with documented realities. The contrast generated its own humor, because audiences are often more unsettled by contradiction than by insult. By allowing Trump's own rhetoric to collide with verifiable outcomes, Kimmel created tension that felt less like a roast and more like audit.
Turns out they probably should have just given him that Nobel Prize. I mean, remember Star Wars R2-D2's playing chess with Chewbacca and C-3PO suggests he let the Wookiee win? We should have let the Wookiee win. Now we have no arms. Poor Guillermo, and I know it was a tough weekend. Guillermo, I know you and the Ayatollah were very close, right? Every morning, Guillermo would call him. He'd say, "Hola, Ayatollah," and they had a great conversation. Yeah. I'm sure you'll find a new Ayatollah. I bet you'll find...
That recalibration did not happen in a vacuum. The political climate is louder than ever. Narratives harden quickly, and every public critique carries amplified weight. Kimmel seemed aware of that gravity, which is precisely why the monologue felt deliberate rather than impulsive. Each segment built upon the last, transforming isolated jokes into a structured argument about power, media attention, and accountability. Then there was Dave Bautista. Bautista's involvement added a different kind of electricity to the moment. Known for his commanding physical presence and unapologetic bluntness, he does not approach politics as a cautious commentator. That contrast between Kimmel's surgical satire and Bautista's direct condemnation created an unusual synergy. One dissected, the other declared. One used humor as a scalpel, the other used conviction as a spotlight. Together, they amplified the moment beyond a single monologue and turned it into a cultural flashpoint. Clips from the episode spread across social media within minutes. Supporters of Trump framed it as predictable Hollywood hostility, arguing that late-night television has long abandoned neutrality.
I really do. I hate them. I cannot stand them. With all of the things we did, with the tax cuts and rebuilding our military, not one Democrat voted for us. And I think we use it in the campaign that's coming up, the midterms, because we got to beat them. But all of the things that we've given, and they wouldn't vote only because they hate Trump. But I hate them too, you know that? So it's sort of, I really do, I hate them. I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country. You want to know the truth?
Critics of Trump, on the other hand, viewed the segment as a necessary escalation in response to escalating rhetoric. What united both sides, however, was recognition that this was not background noise. The reactions were too intense, the commentary too layered, and the framing too pointed for it to dissolve quietly into the next news cycle. Part of what fueled the intensity was Kimmel's decision to question not just Trump's statements, but the machinery that amplifies them. He highlighted how media ecosystems can transform controversy into currency, how attention often functions as both criticism and reward. Kimmel leaned into that tension rather than pretending it did not exist, and that honesty gave the monologue unexpected weight. Bautista's approach, meanwhile, stripped away nuance and leaned into moral clarity. He framed his criticism in stark terms, emphasizing leadership, accountability, and the consequences of rhetoric. While Kimmel built a layered argument wrapped in humor, Bautista delivered something closer to a public statement of values.
This group. The president sent a letter to lawmakers in which he claimed that it is too soon to know the full scope and duration of this conflict. Now, on Sunday, he said it could last 4 to 5 weeks. Yesterday, he said it could be more than 4 to 5 weeks. Today, he said it's too soon to know, and tomorrow we'll be shooting for Christmas, I guess. However long it takes until everyone stops talking about how many times his name is in the Trump-Epstein files. That's how. And one of the concerns.
The combination created a two-pronged critique that appealed to both emotion and intellect. What elevated the entire episode was structure. Kimmel did not fire off disconnected jokes and move on. He built momentum, weaving together references to policy disputes, legal controversies, and public contradictions into a cohesive storyline. The audience was not merely laughing at isolated moments. They were following a narrative arc. Each comedic beat reinforced the central thesis that spectacle often disguises strategy. That strategic framing complicated the usual accusation that late-night hosts simply preach to choir. While the studio audience clearly leaned in one direction, the argument itself extended beyond partisan boundaries. It raised broader questions about media literacy, public memory, and the normalization of political chaos. By focusing on systems rather than personalities alone, Kimmel attempted to elevate the conversation above tribal reflex. Yet, even within that criticism was an acknowledgement that the remarks had landed with unusual force. The intensity of the response suggested that something about the framing struck a nerve. It was not merely the jokes about speech length or rhetorical exaggeration. It was a suggestion that behind the bluster lies a carefully engineered strategy designed to dominate attention.
Hate Taylor Swift in all capital letters. Who's more American than Taylor Swift? Nobody. Talking about Governor Whitmer, who's asking for federal help. He wouldn't return her phone call because she hurt his feelings. Do you think of anything more un-American? Shit all over Obamacare, promising that any week release his health care plan. And next week, we're gonna have something very shortly. It's like nothing you've ever seen, except it never fucking came. We love our country so much, stop fucking shitting on it. Like Ali right now. Make America great, let's stop all this hate. Love America again.
There's also a broader cultural shift at play. Late-night television has evolved from light celebrity banner into a hybrid space where entertainment and commentary intersect seamlessly. Audiences no longer expect hosts to remain neutral observers. They expect them to engage, to interpret, and occasionally to challenge. Kimmel embraced that expectation, stepping into a role that blurs the line between comedian and commentator. Bautista's participation reinforced that evolution. Celebrity voices carry weight in a digital landscape where cultural influence often rivals institutional authority when a high-profile actor openly criticizes a political figure. It reverberates far beyond traditional news outlets. The message travels through fan communities, entertainment platforms, and social feeds that might otherwise remain detached from policy debates. The debate extends far beyond the original context, feeding back into the very ecosystem the monologue critiqued. This secondary life often carries greater impact than the live broadcast itself. It reaches viewers who may never tune into late-night television, but encounter snippets on social platforms.
Turns out they probably should have just given him that Nobel Prize. I mean, remember Star Wars R2-D2's playing chess with Chewbacca and C-3PO suggests he let the Wookiee win? We should have let the Wookiee win. Now we have no arms. Poor Guillermo. And this was, I know it was a tough weekend. Guillermo, I know you and the Ayatollah were very close, right? Every morning, Guillermo would call him. He'd say, "Hola, Ayatollah," and they had a great conversation. Yeah. I'm sure you'll find a new Ayatollah. I bet you'll find it.
It invites commentary from pundits, influencers, and political operatives who recognize the power of narrative framing. In that sense, the monologue becomes less about comedy and more about positioning within an ongoing cultural tug-of-war. There is a reason moments like this generate disproportionate reaction. They bypass formal debate stages and speak directly to cultural sentiment. Comedy lowers defenses, allowing critique to slip past ideological armor. When humor is paired with structured analysis, the result can feel more penetrating than a cable news segment filled with crosstalk. Yet, the risks are real. Blending satire with serious critique can deepen polarization if audiences interpret every joke as an attack rather than an invitation to reflect. Kimmel appeared aware of that risk, which is why his tone, though sharp, avoided descending into pure insult. He dissected contradictions rather than relying solely on caricature, signaling that the subject warranted thought as well as laughter. At this point, the episode served as a reminder that modern political discourse unfolds in unexpected arenas. The stage may feature a live band and studio audience, but the stakes extend far beyond entertainment. A monologue becomes a statement becomes a flashpoint, and the flashpoint feeds an ecosystem where narrative often shapes perception more powerfully than policy specifics.
This dude got laughed out of the United Nations. That says a lot. Gotta be the system's rigged. I hate Taylor Swift in all capital letters. Who's more American than Taylor Swift? Nobody. Talking about Governor Whitmer, who's asking for federal help. He wouldn't return her phone call because she hurt his feelings. Do you think of anything more un-American? Shit all over Obamacare, promising that any week release his health care plan.
Whether one interprets a segment as courageous commentary or partisan theater depends largely on perspective. What cannot be denied is its impact. It demonstrated how humor can function as both mirror and magnifying glass, reflecting societal tensions while enlarging underlying questions about power and accountability. As election cycles approach and rhetoric intensifies, moments like this are likely to become more frequent. The boundaries between politics and entertainment have grown too intertwined to untangle. Figures like Jimmy Kimmel and Dave Bautista occupy a unique position within that intersection, capable of entertaining, critiquing, and influencing simultaneously. And perhaps that is the most intriguing part of this entire episode. The applause faded, the cameras cut, and the band packed up a night. But the ripple effects continued long after the final joke. In a media landscape where every word can ignite a digital wildfire, the real story is not just what was said, but how it was framed, how it was shared, and how it reshaped the conversation. If only for a moment in a culture that rarely pauses long enough to notice a shift.
Right, they did it in concert with Israeli forces. It required intense secrecy, which is why Donald Trump watched it unfold from his membership-only beach resort in Florida, from the very spot on which, just 2 months ago, Vanilla Ice performed on stage with a Ninja Turtle, just as the prophecy foretold. The president monitored the attack from his super secure bunker at Mar-a-Lago. Don't worry, I'm sure these fabric curtains are totally soundproof.
If anything, the aftermath proved that the real arena was never the studio at all, but the invisible coliseum of timelines, comment sections, and algorithm-fed outrage, where every clip becomes ammunition. Within hours, supporters and critics were carving the segment into fragments, reposting lines, freezing facial expressions, and debating intent, as if they were analyzing game film before a championship. What aired as a carefully structured narrative was reborn as 1,000 micro-moments, each interpreted through a different ideological lens. That fragmentation says more about the current media climate than it does about any single joke. In an era where attention is currency, a late-night monologue can ripple outward into political strategy meetings, fundraising emails, and campaign talking points. Dave Bautista's involvement amplified that ripple in a different way. His audience does not overlap perfectly with Kimmel's, and that matters. When an actor known for blockbuster franchises and larger-than-life roles publicly aligns himself with pointed political criticism, it reaches communities that might otherwise avoid late-night commentary altogether. His blunt delivery cut through the usual comedic cushioning and reframed the discussion as one about values rather than punchlines. At the same time, the backlash revealed how deeply entrenched the battle lines have become.
There ain't no Roe versus Wade, and the reason is because he's a massive piece of shit. This dude got laughed out of the United Nations. That says a lot. Gotta be the system's rigged. I hate Taylor Swift in all capital letters. Who's more American than Taylor Swift? Nobody. Talking about Governor Whitmer, he was asking for federal help. He wouldn't return her phone call because she hurt his feelings. Can you think of anything more un-American? Shit all over Obamacare, promising that any week release his health care plan. Next week, we're gonna have something very shortly.
For many Trump supporters, the segment confirmed a long-standing belief that Hollywood operates as a cultural opposition party. The applause in the studio was interpreted not as spontaneous reaction, but as evidence of elite insulation from everyday concerns. In that reading, the monologue was not a challenge to power, but performance of predictable disdain. Yet even that criticism reinforces the central tension Kimmel appeared to highlight, the symbiotic relationship between media and political spectacle. Trump's rise was fueled by relentless coverage, much of it critical yet undeniably amplifying. Late-night hosts now attempt to counter that amplification with sharper framing and contextual analysis. But in doing so, they keep the spotlight train on him. That duality is difficult to execute, and even more difficult to sustain over time. There's also a generational shift at play. Younger audiences consume news through a mosaic of entertainment clips, social commentary, and influencer reactions rather than traditional broadcasts.
Told us in advance that the speech was going to be long, and for once he was telling the truth. We were waiting for the speech to finish before we started shooting the show. He went on so long we had to start before he said, he's probably still going, right? Which is a problem because Mike Johnson's bedtime is 9 o'clock sharp. The speech went on so long, Kristi Noem's dog shot itself. They do need to hire an orchestra to play him off like the Oscars.
For them, a late-night monologue can function as both recap and interpretation. It packages complex political developments into digestible narratives without stripping away emotional texture. In that environment, figures like Kimmel and Bautista become intermediaries between formal politics and cultural conversation. Ultimately, the episode underscored a simple but powerful truth. Modern political influence does not reside solely in podiums or press briefings. It flows through stories, framing, and emotional undercurrents that shape how events are remembered. When comedy steps into that space with intention, it can unsettle, provoke, and occasionally clarify. The laughter that night was real, but so was the friction. And in a polarized era where certainty often drowns out curiosity, even a moment that forces audiences to pause and reassess carries weight. Whether celebrated as bold commentary or dismissed as partisan theater, the confrontation between Jimmy Kimmel, Dave Bautista, and Donald Trump revealed something enduring about this cultural moment. The stage may be built for entertainment, but the conversations unfolding upon it are anything but trivial.